I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Arakwal people of the Bundjalung Nation, and pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. Are you ready to win at the game of life? Well, throw out that rulebook and get down to the business of being the best and most authentic version of you. Welcome to the Human Design Podcast. We're changing the rules around success, abundance, purpose, love, and life, where we're creating a planet where everyone can thrive in a world that loves and supports each other. I'm your host, Emma Dunwoody, a qualified master coach, human design expert, podcaster, and entrepreneur that is living the life of my dreams, breaking all the rules while doing it, making a huge impact, and living my design and manifesting miracles on the daily. Join me as I break down and simplify everything you need to live in alignment with your human design, teach you how to recondition your unconscious mind for greatness, and to take back your power so you can manifest your heaven on earth and serve the rest of the planet at the same time. It's time to give up the fear and step into your highest potential, to reach for the stars, to know and live your greatness. It's what you deserve, and it's what the planet really needs from you. So buckle up and enjoy the ride.
I want you to stop everything that you're doing and listen to this. And if you're wondering where that familiar Aussie accent is and you're wondering if you're on the wrong podcast, don't worry, you're in the right place. You're talking to Taylor. Hey, how you doing? And I asked Emma if I could come on and share this with you guys. And if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you've absolutely heard us talk about this. And it's something that I'm super passionate about in our business. And so I wanted to come share it with you. So if you use human design in your business in any way, if you're a coach or you want to use human design in your business, you have to hear this because it's responsible for so much of the growth that we've had this year, and I just can't keep my mouth shut about it anymore. So you've heard us probably talk about this BodyGraph chart software that we use, and it's responsible for bringing more than 15,000 new leads into our business this year alone. Why does this matter for you? Well, if you use or plan to use human design in your business in any way, what you're going to find is that you're sending people to another major website or somebody else's platform for them to get their chart, when instead it could all be happening right in your own business. With the BodyGraph chart software, not only can you host your own chart software on your website so that you don't have to send people away, but you can also add them to your email list. You can follow up with human design information or any other information that's relevant to your business. You can build reading report tools where you can put your own information in to guide them through their journey in a way that is branded and unique to you. This is one of the most brilliant ways to build your own customer journey and to connect with people and to build your business and to create transformation for your clients and anyone that enters your business. We are obsessed, as you can probably hear in my voice, with this software. Like I said, it's brought over 15,000 new amazing people into our community just this year alone. And I don't know what we would do without it, to be honest. So I wanted to come on here and tell you about it so that if you want to try this tool, which I highly recommend that you do, I want to share with you a way that you can get 50% off for 12 months because these guys are amazing. Their customer support is amazing. And if the word software is already scaring you because you're not tech savvy and you don't know anything about websites or how to do these sorts of things, I want you to take a deep breath and don't worry because it's the easiest thing in the world to use. And like I said, their customer service is incredible. With just a couple clicks, you can have this thing up and running on your website in no time. So don't let the tech scare you away. It's really, really easy and it's so worth it. So if you want to try this out in your business, all you have to do is go to bodygraphchart.com. I'll put the link in the show notes and you can get 50% off for 12 months. I know, really generous of them. 50% off for 12 months if you use the code Human Design Podcast, all lowercase, all together, Human Design Podcast. You guys, try it. Okay, I'll leave you alone for the transits now. And if you have any questions about this, just reach out and ask us.
Today on the podcast, I have Andy Eaton Alman, a 1-3 sacral manifesting generator, cross of the Sphinx, who is the founder of WeWe, a platform dedicated to deprogramming how creatives are supposed to do business, career, and life. She works with companies like Google and Pinterest, plus conscious brands and CEOs interested in fusing soul and spirit into work. She's the founder and creative director of the clean beauty brand Casa Noon. She hosts the top-ranked mindset podcast, Your Woo Woo Best Friend, which features practical conversations for attainable transformation. Her latest book, Elemental, Nature-Inspired Rituals to Nourish Your Life, is available wherever you get your books. I absolutely loved talking to this human. She is so inspiring. My sacral definitely lit up and is, for the first time, excited about Instagram. So settle in and enjoy. Hey everyone, and welcome to today's episode. Today I'm super excited to share a guest with you that I feel like the universe has put us in each other's calendars on just the exact right date, because yesterday I had a long conversation about Instagram, and then I went and listened to your podcast. I'm like, oh my goodness, there's the answers, and I get to speak to you today. So Andy Eaton, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to get into all of the things.
Yeah, let's do it. I feel like Instagram, I'm at this place in my business now where I don't do my social media. Like, I do all my stories and I connect with my people and I'm in my DMs, but I don't do it like I used to when I first started my business. And I think part of that's almost created a little bit of a disconnect with my love for it, with me wanting to connect to it. So I want to talk about that. And I've got so many people, and I was saying on my mastermind yesterday, I've got all of these, entrepreneurs who are building their business, and they're like, oh, I hate Instagram. I hate social media. And we were talking a lot about it. So I really want to get your advice on all of those things. For our listeners out there, Andy is a 1-3 pure MG, cross of the Sphinx. So many superhuman, brilliant tips to hear from you. Before we get into all of that, can you just tell us, like, for me personally, I really believe that we have this catalytic moment, this moment when we're invited into our purpose, and usually it like hits us on the back of the head like a 4x4 and, knocks us to our knees. But in that moment, we decide, okay, well, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to become this version of me. And then it kind of leads us to who we are today and obviously who we will be in the future. But I'd love to hear a little bit about that journey for you. Like what was that moment for you, and how you got to who you are today?
Yeah, for sure. I have to say that moment for me feels like it kind of stretched for some length of time. And when I reflect back, I can see where that moment started. And then when I kind of caught up to what was actually going on in that moment. So I'd spent about a decade of my career working in the corporate beauty realm. I was a senior VP of marketing for a beauty distribution company. I spent a lot of time helping creatives. I worked very closely with salon and spa owners. Most of them had been hairdressers, estheticians, makeup artists. They were very much creative people themselves and had pivoted into a world in which they owned their own businesses. And my role in sales was to go in, support them with their businesses, and inevitably the end goal was then they would buy more product from the company that I was working for. So I did that for a lot of years, and I worked in operations and marketing along the way. And I made a decision about 10 years ago that I was going to leave that corporate job. And I had loved every bit of it. I really felt I was making an impact. I was completely lit up, but I had this awareness that I don't want my legacy to be that I was the best salesperson for this beauty company there ever was. And I started to think about, okay, well, what do I want to be known for? What is the legacy that I want to leave? And I did not know the answer to that. And I knew that it had something to do with working with creatives, helping creatives, being a creative myself, and then helping others like me to get on their own path. And then as I thought through that, I was like, well, I surely need to figure out what my path's going to be if I'm going to help others to get on to theirs. And what started to happen was community started to ultimately develop around that thinking, even without me having crystal clear vision of what that was going to look like. So people showed up. They asked how I was doing things. They wanted to Manny Jen style. They're like, how are you doing what you're doing? They wanted the inside look at how I was creating what I was creating. I was doing some writing. I had a book that came out around that time too. And my blog was growing. So there were these things that I was finding real passion around, but I wasn't quite sure how I was going to apply it all. So that was kind of when that key began to turn for me. I'd made the decision I was going to start a business. I knew the general legacy of what I wanted that business to be about. And I actually gave myself enough space to start to just let the business flow in whatever direction it was going to flow. So fast forward quite a few years, business was doing well without a real plan of action. Then I started to really dial in on what my true genius is and where I started to see my superpower. And much of that was I had this moment where I was like, my power is that I'm really intuitive, and I know how to teach others to tune into intuition. And I'm really good at business strategy, and specifically brand marketing and sales strategy. So when I bring those things together, that can create for a really magnetic approach to business. And I really want to help teach this to other people. And so that was kind of the like several years down the line, that key turning a little further and me getting that hyper awareness of this is going to change my life and the life of the people around me for sure.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love that. And I can hear so much of your design in that as well. You know, like that cross of the Sphinx. And when you change direction, the people wanting to come with you, you know, your journey, that personal profile, the 1-3. One thing that came up for me that I think I'm kind of fascinated about is those of us that have transitioned from the big corporate model. And I love that you're doing the sales, marketing, and branding for like individuals and, you know, smaller businesses and this sort of thing. So how has your approach changed? Because I really believe that the entrepreneurs, the small business owners, we are the future.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it might look like it right now. It might feel like such a struggle and all of those things, but it really isn't. And I feel like we're in this transition phase. I actually had a friend of mine who was running the sales department of one of the big TV networks here. And I said to him, you need to invest more in the small business. And he's like, oh, don't be silly. Should have taken my advice a while ago. Anyway, I would love your insight on taking branding from a big corporate kind of model and then bringing it down into an individual model. Like, how do we do that?
Yeah, it is quite different, isn't it? And I still do some consulting with some corporate entities in the beauty space. And to be real honest, it's just not as much fun because there's so much gets watered down most of the time because it's usually several several there's several people that need to say yes to a sales plan, a business strategy, a brand plan. But when you're working with an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, when you're working with a creative, there's such a different lens that we're looking at creation of strategy through. And we start to think about things like, okay, what are my big, juicy business goals? When I think about myself holistically, what do I value? What legacy do I want to leave? What does my energetics say about how I want to show up? And we then can play with not only researched and proven creative strategies, but we also get to think about our own mindset, our own innate gifts, our own leadership approach. And then we get to build things and scale in a really not only a really effective way, but a way that involves a lot of pleasure and fun along the way. So when I hear entrepreneurs say to me, and just as you said, oh, I hate dealing with Instagram. I really don't want to do that. It's not fun for me. I know that we can make it fun for you. It's just we got to get the right approach going, and probably the approach you've taken thus far has been something that's kind of out of a playbook, but it's not your playbook. And so when we can tap into your playbook, then we can make it a whole lot of fun. And that's the same for anything you're doing in your marketing, branding, and sales strategy. Is let's figure out how to make sales feel sacred and sexy and fun for you. And let's figure out how to make communications, whether that's email or podcasting or whatever it is that you're going to do to attract your people, let's make it feel really pleasureful for you and tap into your talents and gifts. And we get to do that when we're working on a solo individual level.
Oh my goodness, I love that. And instantly I'm like, okay, tell me, how do we make Instagram fun? You know, as I said yesterday, I was talking with my mastermind crew, and they're all like, oh my goodness, I just can't stand it. I don't want to be anywhere near it. And I said to them, it's the anchor. You know, we were talking about the anchor point, where the anchor, the association that you've got is this negative thing, and really, if we just break it down to the brain science, it's because you don't know what you don't know. So it feels really overwhelming. It feels confusing. There's no clarity. It feels like you just because you don't understand the algorithm, because you don't understand how to make the most of it, it feels like no one's listening. And then it's, self-destroying, So I would really, really, please help us. How do we make Instagram or social media fun? Let's start there.
And I will tell you, I went through the same feelings personally. I am one of those elder millennial types who kind of came into Instagram in the days of, okay, you just make it look pretty and it's like got an aesthetic to it. And if you do that, you're going to grow. And I grew quite a nice following just from doing that, just from sharing, still from the lens of manifesting generator style, sharing a bit of how I was doing things, but in a really just like lovely aesthetic way. Well, then, Instagram changed. It changes all the time, but it changed. And all of a sudden, years into it, it was like, oh, all those pretty photos you've been doing for all these years and all that photography skill that you worked to cultivate actually doesn't really matter. It's about the messaging, and it's taking a brand new approach. And so I got really frustrated too. I was like, oh, I've done all of this to get to where I am. I've grown this following. And then I probably spent a year and a half just like at this plateau where I was like, okay, well, we don't make sales here. We don't grow here. We just exist here. And there was a point in time where I would say, I think Instagram's really great for nurturing, but I don't think it's great for selling. And I believed that at one point where I was like, it's nice to be able to drop into DMs and have conversations with people, but it's not going to be a place where I put focus on selling. And then I thought, this is a place where if I can figure out how to show up in a way that feels good for me, I'm probably actually quite wrong about that. And I just need to interrogate this a bit and see what does make sense for me and what I can do to make this fun for me. And then if I nail this for me, then I can test this out with some of my people and see if we can figure this out for them too. So the first thing I looked at, because I use human design in every part of my life. So I was like, wait, I need to apply this. I need to apply the thing that I use in every other part of my life to how I'm approaching social media and specifically Instagram. So I was like, okay, first let me look at my manifesting generator-ness. So if I consider my type and what my people ultimately want from me as a manifesting generator, they want to understand how I can do it all. I'm multi-passionate. I'm a multitasker. I'm a multi-hyphenate. I've got a lot of things going on. And if I had really thought about it, it's the questions that come up the most for me is, how are you doing this? How are you doing this? And so when I started to think about how I was going to pivot on Instagram, the first thing was, okay, what's the main thing people want to know? And it's, how are you doing what you do? So then taking that understanding, what can I do that's easy for me to show people what I'm doing? So for example, for me, that means I just go film lots of B-roll, which basically, if you're listening and you're like, what does that even mean? When I have the time and I've got my phone, I'm just filming a lot of just like little moments of things going on. And I even now have gotten really specific about that, where I'll block out time on my calendar and I'm just filming myself doing basic things like sitting down and typing on my laptop, taking a walk around the dining room, being in a moment of journaling, for example. So that was step one. Okay, they want to know how I do what I do. So I'm going to start to put together a plan of visuals reflecting me doing the do. So then I thought, okay, got that part. So now let me use my profile lines to start to think about what content pillars I really want to talk about. And when we talk about a content pillar, it really just means the themes. So I looked at my line 1 and my line 3, and the 1 in me tells me that I've got a secret genius and I'm really good at problem solving. And there's insights that I have that if I can put together messaging around that, answering inevitably someone's needs before they even necessarily know what those needs are in quick, concise ways, and then layer that into these little how-to videos, now I've got something I can easily create, and I have a way forward. Then I looked at my line 3, and for me that tells me, okay, I can be quite relatable. People know that I really care about their story, and I know they care about mine. And so that became that just gave me a lot of momentum using those two components of what I was going to put together. It's going to be these easy B-roll videos with me sharing some sort of secret wisdom and something you can relate to. And what started to happen when I took that approach was the content creation process for me got so much easier, because before that, I would sit down at like this assigned time on my calendar that said content creation or social media plan. And I would be like, there's so much I could talk about, but I don't know where I want to go. I don't know what approach to take today. And then for me, I'm very much sacral authority, generating that
need something to respond
creativity.
to.
Yeah. So I can't just sit down and map out a plan of what I want to say for a whole week if I'm not feeling it in that moment. So I considered that too. And so the next step was to think about, okay, I understand my MG13. So I'm going to just come up with high level messages that I want to talk about each day. So I map things out for Monday, this is my high level message. Tuesday, this is my high level message, and so on. And then I would plan the time, and this is what I still do. I plan the time to when I notice that my creativity really hits. So for me, it's typically like 3:00 in the afternoon after I've had like lots of time with clients, and conversations and Zooms are typically pretty much done. So I've got this like moment where I can go take a walk, have a tea, and then that like creativity just hits me. So that's the time I'm going to actually map out and actually write the content. I write the copy for the post. I do any other work I need to do on it. And then it's like, it's good to go. And then all of a sudden I'm creating in a way that feels really organic to me, really authentic to me, so aligned to me. And it takes me way less time than anything I was ever doing before. And my people are resonating with it in a really great way, because it's truly coming from all of those things that I just mentioned that make me who I am. And so it truly connects. And when you and I were talking before, one of the things that I know when I look at my sun personality side of my chart is people want some guidance from me. And if I can listen to what they really need and then share that guidance, that gives me so many ideas about what to talk about on social. So it's not even that I have to sit down and think about what do they want to know? What do I think they want to know? I can just ask the questions to my community. What do you guys want to know about? What's important to you right now? They tell me, and then I can create content around that. And so that has made content creation really pleasureful for me. And I'm seeing that with my clients now too, as we figure those things out. What's your type? What's your profile? What does your personality have to say? And now let's put together a plan that feels truly you. And when you think about, like, sometimes you're like scrolling through Instagram and you see one person's vlog or one person's get ready with me or one person's like hot take, and theirs resonates, and then the next one you see, you're like, like, what is that? And I really think that, or you see someone who's like lip syncing to a trend, and when they do it, it's like cool. And then the next person you see doing it, it's like, that's not it for them. When we really start to think about how we approach, like which styles are right for us, I think you can find all of that on your chart. Like, I think the trends, I love seeing manifestors do the trends because they're just like way showing, right? They're just like, let me inform you of how it's done. So they do a trend and it's like funny and like, it's like kind of cute.
And I can't help it. Like my manifestors, I'm just like, she's doing what? Oh my God. And like, I'm after her so fast, you know,
Yes.
Like one of my dear friends is a manifestor, and like every book she picks up or everything she's focused on, I'm like, oh God, I'm following you. What are you doing?
Yes.
What are you doing? Yeah.
Totally. And then when we see a projector give a hot take, it like resonates because they've been seeing so deeply into the collective and the people that they're engaging with that their hot takes really resonate. But we see someone else do a hot take and it's like, no, I don't think you actually get what's going on. So I think we can start to find those things, and it gives us a lot of insight into how to approach your creation, your content creation, and then it can become fun.
I love that. And I think you're so right. At the end of the day, what I'm hearing you say is it's ultimately authenticity. You know, it's ultimately, instead of, you know, I often bang on about this, we have to shift from going external first, you know, looking outside of ourselves to someone having something we want and then doing what they do to get the same results. Like, it doesn't work that way. I mean, we can force ourselves down that road. I mean, I did for years because it was one of the primary principles where I studied, you know, like just model what they did and you'll get what they have. And it just doesn't work that way. And if it does, you end up in burnout by the time you get there.
Totally.
However, when we go internal first, with everything that you're saying, you're like, okay, so this is fun because, especially, for example, like being a personal profile. So often when we're marketing, we're thinking about the other. That's what we're told to think about. Think about the other, think about the other, think about the other. But I've got a personal profile. Like, I'm not designed to think about the other in that way. I'm designed to share my journey. And when I share my journey, that's how I serve the other. So, yeah, I just think that's really, really powerful. Before I ask you about, okay, we really need to talk about how we get onto Instagram and grow an audience, is there anything you want to respond to just that I just said there?
Yeah, no, I think that is right on. And, you know, I see a lot of people, and I'll even say this before I go there. I never had any intention of teaching my community how to do Instagram. I had some success in it myself, like I said, in those early days. And I was like, okay, you know, that where I was like, it's just, I can nurture, but I don't really know how to sell, until I like had this moment where I felt like I had turned it on. Then I noticed everyone was like, show us how to do that. Show us how to do that. And I was like, okay, listening to my community, I'm going to build out some structure that will help you to figure out how to do this. But what I noticed is that anywhere else I looked, most people that were teaching how to sell on Instagram were teaching from what worked for them, from their perspective. So I even sometimes get like, I don't even really want to share like how I'm doing it, because how I'm doing it isn't necessarily how you should do it. So what is really important to me is that exactly that thing you just said. You've got to do this in a way that's really authentic to you. And so I have a little mini course that I created recently. It's called Instagram to Income. It's all about how to take those relationships you're building on Instagram and turn those into sales. But within it, it's like, if you are a Mani-Gen, follow this path. If you're a projector, follow this path. So you don't need to go duplicate what I'm doing. I want you to find your path through the process. And I am showing like, here's how you can use visual cues. Here's how you know, some of the things that would help anyone. But ultimately, it's about how to get super tuned in to what's going to really resonate with your audience from what goes on within you. So I think that's really important. And then there's those things, to speak to the things that I think anyone could employ in their Instagram strategy and just improve and reach more people and get more aligned leads into their business. And that's really think about your messaging. And Instagram is it's such a fast moving platform. it's not like I'm very much like old school blogger days where I'm like, want to tell you the whole story. So one of the things that is really helpful is pick that one thing within the story that's going to get the most people, your perfect people, the people you really want to hang out with in your business. What's that point that's really going to attract them? And we see, if you're spending time on Instagram, you may see people call that the hook. And it's like in any sales messaging or marketing messaging, it's like, what's your hook? And it is that, but I don't necessarily love calling it a hook, because it's not like some like, just idea you came up with that you think is going to get people to check you out. It's really about what is going to connect us. What's that thing that's going to connect us? So getting really good at that connection language, and it doesn't have to be complex, and you don't have to reinvent it all the time. I often have people in my community ask me, well, how often do you repeat the messaging? And I'm like, every day, all the time, because it's the way that Instagram works. It's moving so fast, and there's only so much we can retain. And I want to make sure that the people that are coming across me there are very clear on what I'm there to help them with. So I repeat the messaging all the time. And I think that that's something we can sometimes think as entrepreneurs, that we have to constantly be coming up with new messaging and new storylines and new things to say. And the reality is, just get really good at those couple of things that your people really care about. And if you do that, then you can continue to invite them in fresh ways, but with that same messaging.
I love that. And I think that was a game changer for me, that whole like, oh, what, I can repeat stuff I did like 8 years ago. Oh my goodness. Thank God. And I love that as well. Like finding these things that we really love to speak about, that people really resonate with. And we've done this through, as you've said, using our type, using our profile, understanding our, parts of our design, which I think is so powerful. Now, I know one of the challenges that even for me at the moment with my Instagram, like growing it, we had some big bursts, like when we acted in the right direction for the algorithm change, big bursts. And then now it's kind of just steadily growing. But if I want to like grow my Instagram, like what do I do? What do I get like to get these big growths? And is it even possible now? There's a lot of people out there that are sort of like, well, it's not Instagram of the old, that it doesn't grow like that. And I know you said with your free course, which we'll put in the link in the show notes, you said that you got 10,000 new followers, I think you said. So, I mean, that's a big jump. So what do we need to be focusing on to do that?
Yeah. It's, and I also was one of those people that would have said, oh, it's just, you kind of just can't, it's hard to do. It's like, we might have these little spurts, but it's not really a thing. And now I'm seeing, so in the last 30 days on my account, we grew right under 11,000 new followers. The month before was about 6,000 or 7,000 new followers. I was very much stuck at that like 45K, 50K for like a while. And then 2 months ago, I was like, I'm really going to turn this on. I'm going to take it very seriously. And why is this important to me? Well, when I have people come in from a top of funnel perspective and experience me for the first time on Instagram, and they then come into the other offers that I have, my newsletter, my podcast, the other things, they can become some of my best customers ever. So why wouldn't I try to reach them if I can do it in a way that's it's not a seriously heavy lift for me? Of course I should try this. So I was like, I'm going to give this a go. So I think the things that you really have to do, and it's funny because I was chatting with another woman who's been having some really great success around this too. And we have a little bit of a different thought and approach, and we're both having good results. And I think that's telling in itself, is you don't have to do things one way. I do think you have to show up consistently. And I think today with Instagram, if you want to grow, that does mean every day or at least every other day or so. But consistency does not matter if it's not of high quality. So if you're thinking about consistency and you're thinking about high quality, think about and again, I would look at your type to decipher what this is going to be. Are you teaching something every day? Are you giving some sort of reflection on the collective every day? Are you way showing every day? What is the thing that you can show up and deliver every day that gets your perfect person in motion, gets them to take some sort of action. And if you can do that, what's going to happen from an algorithmic standpoint is people are going to share and they're going to save your posts. Sharing your posts is the best thing that could happen. That's going to tell Instagram that, oh, more people need to see this. So I find with my posts, they get shared a lot. And it's like, there was one actually earlier this afternoon, and this gal was like, okay, I saw this post. I don't know who this girl is, but I saw this post, and she was saying to try this, that this is working for her. So I tried it and it's working for me. And I'm so excited. So she's telling her story, and then she shares my post and says, oh, this is the post. So then what happens is that tells Instagram, give more new eyes to this, because there's people talking about this. There's people pointing to this. So when I'm thinking about what I'm creating, I'm thinking about consistently showing up, offering really high value, actionable information that someone can take, get some good results with, and then they'll want to share it, tell their friends, tell their followers about it too. That actually is the strategy, I think, to get new eyes on your page and inevitably growth on your page. I had a moment like a year or so ago, and it was this kind of like wild thing where Bella Hadid had followed my account and she started sharing my posts. Okay, so like I grew quite a bit. I'd grown like, I don't know, 5,000 or 8,000 followers from Bella Hadid sharing my posts. And then she kept doing it, and I was like, well, this is amazing. But then the thing I noticed was, okay, I'm not the post that she's sharing, I'm not giving something that's so actionable that it's getting people into motion and they want to stay and hang around or tell more people digitally about my page. So I was like, that was cool. That was really cool that happened, but it actually didn't, it's like the followers didn't really matter because they weren't my perfect people. They were just people that love Bella.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, I'll follow this girl because Bella has posted her stuff, but it didn't matter. So I think that's important to think about too, is the follower that you're getting, when you start to get them, is it the right one for you? And so for me, now it really is. And then it in turn makes an impact on my business. Whereas that I was getting the followers, but it wasn't making an impact on my business because they didn't really care what I was offering in my business. They were just like, cool, this girl might be Bella's friend. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something to think about too. So that strategy of get those shares because you're creating something consistently of really high value, but make it so good that the person who is going to decide to follow, you really want them in your sphere. They want to be in your business, and they're the perfect fit for you.
Yeah, I love that. It's that whole quality over quantity thing, isn't it? You know, like yeah. I think there's so many of even the influencers that they just have the numbers, but it would be so cool just to be able to see behind the screen, wouldn't it? To be able to actually break it down into the impact that each influencer has, because how many of them have like absolutely engaged followers as opposed to just numbers on the board. And at the end of the day, it's not about the how many, it is definitely the quality. Like you said, I love that distinction of realizing that you got all these people over to your page. However, you had to then, make sure that they want to stay there, and they want to repost and those sort of things. So it feels like to me, it changes all the time. Like, are we meant to be in our stories? Are we meant to be doing reels? Like, I know for us, the thing that is really powerful on my Instagram is the carousels, like the information. We think a lot about my Instagram. We think a lot about like, let's create the library. We want to create a library for people to come to. There's information. And it's really interesting as I'm speaking to you, I'm like, and because I'm really big on, because my background's behavioral coaching, the thing that I resist the most is actually being on there myself and just listening to you. I'm like, God, I'm an MG, I'm a line 3. It's like this day in the life stuff. And for me, it's the part that I resist the most, because I'm like, do people really give a shit? Like, do they really care when I'm making dinner for my kids or walking my dog or riding my horse or working in my business? And intuitively, my gut says like, yes, Emma, they do. My entire team are like, for God's sake, Emma, yes, people care. How do we, like, what are the things that people care about? Is it like, do we need to be doing more reels? Do we need to be in our stories more? And I do understand that this is kind of like a really similar question. And ultimately the answer is do what's in alignment for you. But like, how do we keep up with the algorithm? How do we know what is working and what isn't working?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things is to experiment, which you and I have spent some time chatting about before. Is this approach of experimentation is always going to be, I think, the way, because we could be doing one thing today and then the algorithm changes and it's like that thing doesn't work anymore. But here's the thing, like for you with carousels, you could still be giving that how I do, like what's behind the scenes through a carousel, because it could be through the written word in a really connected way. So that could happen for sure. And when you said we think about our carousels as a library, I think about my reels as mini how-to tutorials. So I think of it as like a little video library. And sometimes when folks drop into my DMs and they're like, I'm trying to figure this thing out, I'm like, great, I have a reel about that. Let me send you that reel. And it's going to be a little mini how-to. So I think thinking about whichever of those things you will in fact show up and do, that's going to be important. Will you do carousels? Yes. Okay, cool. Do that and make it a library of great information. Will you do videos? Yes, you will do that. Okay, cool. Make that little mini tutorials and information that someone could take action around. I don't, as much as I love to teach and present and like be with you this way, the way we're doing this podcast, I don't love doing face to camera videos at all. I just don't love it. So I know people as an MG, line 3, like to see me, but I don't necessarily want it to be like, hey, here's what's up today, friends. I don't really like doing that. And I kind of did this little, I'm also like very analytical. So I'm always like testing like what works, what doesn't work in my realm.
Of course you are my line one friend.
Yeah. So I did this little test where I was like, okay, let me see if I do no face to camera, but a lot of copy in my stories, like narrating what's happening with a visual in the background. So like right now I'm at my cabin in the forest and I use this as a retreat house for writing and creativity and to just get away with my husband. So I posted something about it 2 days ago, wrote the whole story about how this place came to be for us. And it was one of my highest viewed stories in quite some time. And I looked at it and I was like, what I just did was I just gave the how to, and then what this has inevitably created in my life. And that's interesting to people. They want that information, but I didn't have to get on and say, hey, everybody, let me tell you about my cabin and what we did to get this cabin to come into our lives. And so I'm noticing that any of those approaches can work. You've got to figure out which one you feel the most, again, aligned to and which one you will actually do. And then from a logistics standpoint, if it's a reel and you're going to create videos and you don't want to do face to camera, but you can like set up a space in your home or in your office that you can like do some little filming, do that. If you like doing face to camera and you just need to set up some time to, get yourself zhuzhed up and feel good about being on camera, do that. But you don't have to do that if that's not for you. If you really love to write, create carousels and include some sort of mini lessons that way. And then from a story perspective, I actually think what I've noticed, this is kind of a little like algorithm hack, do your stories, actually use it in the way that it's named. Tell stories on stories. So just resharing information or like throwing up one idea and then throwing up another idea hours later actually doesn't work as well as putting together a narrative. And it doesn't have to be super lengthy, but having some little narrative and sharing that as a little mini story, which is what stories I think are ultimately for. So tell a little story on stories, then give it a break, come back and tell another little story on stories. And then if you feel like you've told quite a few stories on stories, then actually give it a rest for a day or two, come back and tell another story using all those little tools like the sliders, the little stickers, the questions, the polls. And I think you'll notice your stories, the views on your stories, but also what happens in your business from stories will change quite considerably.
I love that. And I'm sitting here just going, oh my God, that's exactly what happens. And as an emotional authority, that's exactly how I turn up on stories as well. Like I'm there, not there. there, not there. Like, because it's just the way my energy works. I love that.
Yeah.
So
and
good.
I think that's totally good. It's perfect. I have found the amount of selling that's now happening in my business through stories is gone up tremendously because people are like, oh, you're inviting me into a conversation by telling the story you're telling on stories. So that's been really helpful.
I love this. And I want to ask you about selling, you know, like I definitely have that. Especially, well, there's two things I want to talk to you about. I'm really conscious of time. I want to talk about selling, you know, like how do we actually use Instagram to generate income? And the second thing is that, I mean, one of my principles in transformational human design is understanding the difference between being out of your comfort zone and being out of alignment. Because I think oftentimes we stop and block ourselves because we're just out of our comfort zone. We're not out, and we tell ourselves that we're out of alignment. And I think a lot of people, when it comes to social media, and me included, you know, we'll say, oh, it doesn't feel like it's in alignment, but it's absolutely just because we're out of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
So how do you help people get past that initial, I don't want to do it? I know we've talked about getting fun, making it fun, being in alignment, but is there anything else that people can, they're out there, they're listening, they're starting their business, like how can they actually get past that fear, that initial, like, I feel like it's out of alignment, it's really icky. What are like some 2 practical things or 3 practical things that they can actually do to kick off their social media?
Yeah, I mean, I love that you said that because it is so often that we're just out of our comfort zone, so it doesn't feel good. And I also like to remind my people that we hear all this stuff about, well, you just need to take inspired action. And I actually think it's not inspired action, it's actually confrontational action because it can feel quite confronting, but you still have to take the action. And then when you take the action, you start to develop that confidence after you've gotten yourself in motion. So it's like, I may not feel super inspired to do this thing at the beginning, but I'm confronting my own reality around it and I'm just going to do it. And then that's how we get out of our comfort zone. It's how we start to build some confidence. So I think that's like step 1, like recognize you're going to be confronting your own reality by even deciding you're going to do this. So get okay with that. And then I think it's really important then to lean into that intuition and then create a strategy. So what I'm never going to suggest to anyone is you need to sit down and map out a 30-day content plan. I already shared that doesn't really work for me, but I think you got to figure out what your plan will be. So is it that you're going to come up with one high level idea for every day of the week and you're going to show up on stories and you're going to share that high level idea, or you're going to create a reel, or you're going to create a carousel? Is that what your plan's going to be? Maybe. If that's it, go forward with that plan and don't abandon ship. Continue on the plan for at least 21 days. It's like that 21 days to build a habit thing, or to like, you know, that sort of idea. I actually think I would tell you even like go further than that. 40 days, we start to kind of like really reprogram. But if you can commit to, I'm going to stick to this plan for 21 days and just do the thing, no matter how bad it feels. I remember when I was first starting to make this transition in my own social media page on Instagram, especially, I remember I was like, okay, I'm going to do the high level lesson. I'm going to map that out. I had 28 days of high level lessons. So I was like, I got that. And I did day 1 and like nothing was happening. I was like, okay, I just told this lesson. I gave the lesson and nothing's happening. But I committed to it. And the first 3 days was like a part 1, a part 2, a part 3 of this one specific topic. So I did day 2 and like nothing's happening. I did day 3 and nothing's happening. So I got through about day 7 and then something happened. And all of us, that post took off. Well, within a matter of hours, those 6 days of posts before that day 7 post took off, got so much traction. And I was getting all these notes from people that were like, thank you so much for sharing those three steps. That was so helpful for me. And if I had just like abandoned ship on day 2 after I was like, oh, nope, actually, this is uncomfortable. No one's seeing me. I'm confronting my reality and I feel invisible. If I had allowed that to happen, or to have allowed that to be my truth and just called it quits, then the result that I ended up getting just a few days later would not have occurred. So I think that's the 2 things you got to do: confront that reality, make a plan, and do not jump ship. Just go forward and see what happens. And then a little like kind of 2B or maybe 3 is, then once you've committed to that 21 days or whatever it is you decide you're going to do, now look back and see what really worked. What were the posts? Was it carousels? Was it reels? Was it a certain type of video? Was it doing voiceovers? Was it putting lessons on the screen? Whatever it might be, go notice, go interrogate and see what actually worked, and then do more of that, because that's going to ultimately help you to uncover what your unique style is on an app that can be really hard to decipher that.
Oh my goodness, I love all of that. And I think it's so incredibly powerful. And, it's that I actually started my entire social media journey with a 90-day commitment. And it was over on LinkedIn. And I was talking about this yesterday. Like, there were days that I was lying face down on the floor, kicking and screaming. I so didn't want to do it, but I just did it. And it's one of the greatest lessons I've had. I mean, yes, I have a presence on LinkedIn, but I haven't been on there for years now. But I grew a big audience that was, a really engaged audience. It was really uncomfortable in the beginning. And just letting it, it's the thing for me, even just listening to you, I'm so inspired. I'm like, right, I'm going to fall back in love with my Instagram. I'm going to get back. I'm going to do the things. I feel like my whole team's slapping their foreheads listening to this. This is what we've been saying forever. So the thing that I want to ask you about is selling. So how do we actually use Instagram to make money in our business?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to give you my exact approach to a sales funnel on Instagram, because until I knew this, when I had a mentor share this with me and I was like, oh, wow, okay, now it's made such an impact for me. So I want to pass this along to anyone who's thinking about, okay, I want to make sales on Instagram. And I'm going to speak from the standpoint of, if you have service clients, some sort of digital offering, an online course, a digital product, an ebook, anything like that. If you have a consumer product, goods brand, or something like that, that's going to look a little different. So I'm going to speak to the other side of things. And if you have a CPG brand, for example, just DM me and we can talk about ways that you could probably do this. So if you have a digital offering, course, product, etc., what I find is really important is you have some attraction point to get people into your realm beyond Instagram first. So that could be, you've got a free course, you have an ebook, you have a checklist, you have something that you can deliver to people to expand their knowledge of what you do. And that thing doesn't need to be super lengthy, doesn't need to be an hour masterclass, doesn't need to be a whole workbook. It just needs to be something that gets people thinking in such a way that they have some serious aha in that very short engagement with you. And they see that, oh, if she gave me this thing, what would it be like to get more from her? And it doesn't even mean that you have to be immediately selling the next thing, but you want them to engage with you beyond that post. So what I do, the exact approach is, I make sure that those videos, like I said, are high level tutorials. So I'm not giving you all the nitty gritty of how to do all of the things. So for example, if it's a reel about how to create your first online product, I'm going to give you, here's step 1, 2, 3. I'm not going to give you all the minutia of what goes on within those steps, but here's steps 1, 2, and 3 to get started. So then I will say, comment, free class, to get my free masterclass to learn more about steps 1, 2, and 3. So then what happens is someone drops in the comments and they say, I want the free class. That sounds great. So what I have then set up in Instagram DMs is an auto responding link that's like, great, you're interested in the free class. You commented you want the free class. Here's the link for the free class. So then they come into my realm. That's my high level attraction piece, is that free class. So in the free class, I'm very much being my Manny Gen 1-3 self. I'm telling my story. I'm engaging you that way. And then I'm giving you exactly what I told you I'm going to give you, the 1, 2, 3, with a little more of the specifics about how to do the thing. So then the next step would be, after you take that free class, you're going to get an email from me. You're now on my email list, and you're going to learn about my paid offer that comes next after you've taken that free class. And that paid offer, now I'm going deeply into, okay, now you know about steps 1, 2, and 3. You can take those, do what you want to do with them, or you can come and take my paid offer and go much deeper into steps 1, 2, and 3. So really the funnel was, point 1 is, I see you on Instagram. You're giving some quick, high value information. I want to go deeper. So I ask for the free class. Then you get an automatic invitation to take the free class. My free class, by the way, is pre-recorded. It's not like I'm leading a free class every day or every week. So you can come take my free class. I use a program called EverWebinar. So it's running my webinar all the time. So you can come take that free class. Then you get a follow-up email. You're now on my newsletter list. Here's the next step, which will take you into my paid offers. And that, for me, converts all day long. And it's amazing. So they go right from Instagram to sale. And my only touch point was truly, it was really all automated. I created the reel. I created the class. I created the email that they receive. But I've done each of those things, touched those things, and then they've found their way through that sweet little cycle to make their buying decision.
Oh my goodness. I love it. It's so powerful.
If you have a class or any of those things, it doesn't have to just be a class, but yeah, if you've got anything like that, you could build a plan like that.
It's really powerful. I know that that's something that really generates a lot of leads and sales through my business as well. So, and thank you so much for sharing the actual step-by-step process. It's really cool for you to be so generous. So, well, I'm really conscious of time. I could speak to you all day, every day, I feel like, Andy, but I'm going to have to let you go. So before I do, can you please let everyone know where they can find you and connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been so much fun getting to spend this time with you, Emma, and I feel the same. We could talk all day long, every single day. So yeah, if you're interested in learning more about all the things I'm talking about, you can go check out my online educational studio. It's called We Studio. It's OUIWE Studio. And that's just a great place to go get access to all the things. You can find me on Instagram. It's Wee Girl on Instagram, OUIWEGIRL. And between those two places, you can tap into all the things, the podcast, the courses. We have tons of free resources over on the studio page. So you can connect to all of that right there.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Andy. We'll put everything in the show notes. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. I trust you got what you needed from today's episode, and I look forward to having you all on the next one. Bye for now. Thanks, everyone, for being here all the way to the end of the podcast. I hope you got lots of value out of it. I certainly had a lot of fun doing it. Could I please ask that you share this podcast with friends if you found it valuable? And also, bonus points, could you leave a review for me as well on Apple? It would be greatly appreciated. If at any point you would like to be on the podcast, or you've got questions that you'd like me to discuss on the podcast, by all means get on my socials and DM me. Everything you need is there in the show notes. Have an awesome day. Bye for now.